7 years since it was founded by Eugene Williams and his business partner David Senna, 2CheapCars has grown from one dealership in East Auckland to a nationwide network of 17 yards. Over the years it has been in operation, no other dealer has influenced the industry so heavily, with some others bemoaning its impact on prices at the lower end of the market. To the counter, 2CheapCars has arguably made life harder for backyard traders with its more complete offering. Today the company is in expansion mode. It has launched a second dealership brand, Best Auto Buy, and is operating in the Japanese and Canadian markets. We are joined today by Chief Executive Eugene Williams. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Can you give us a brief idea of how big 2CheapCars is today, and is it where you expected the company to be when you started all those years ago?
To be honest, we thought we would be a little bigger than what we are now. In terms of size, we're importing around 11 to 12,000 cars a year. So that would probably put us on par with Ford in terms of import numbers in New Zealand. We're hoping to get towards 15 to 16,000 in the next financial year. And we're on about 80 to 90 staff.
How polished would you say your business model is now? I mean, are there any particular efficiencies within your dealerships and system you're particularly proud of, and how did you achieve those?
I think in recent years we've focused more on quality and bringing efficiencies to the business. So for example, we've brought in ex-factory managers from Toyota to make our efficiencies better, bring our quality up. And I think at the moment we're running really efficiently and bringing a quality product to the consumer. But still at the same time, we're sort of not moving away from our Jetstar mentality, where we're not going to be putting in band expanders for the customers. We're not going to fill up the tank with petrol when we sell it. We're not going to give you an English manual with the car. What we're sort of trying to do is sell cars to people that want a good deal for a great car, but probably people that are in our generation who are a little bit more tech savvy, that could find out how to operate a Japanese radio online without having a manual. Would I recommend 2CheapCars to my mother? Probably not, because she would probably want to buy a car from somebody that's probably doing less volume, that's going to spend a lot more time with her. Would she take a flight on Jetstar? Probably not. She'd probably want to fly Air New Zealand. So I think what we're offering is different to the traditional car dealer. And I think, like in any market, be it fashion, you're going to have your warehouse, you're going to have your farmers, and they're going to attract different customers. So I think what we're hoping to have achieved is to have grown the market rather than take away from existing dealers.
You indicated before that you'd kind of backpedaled from growth for a little while and brought in consultants to bed things down. I mean, what were the stumbling blocks that you found that had caused you to have to do that? What issues did you have that required that?
Just making sure that we, I think the stumbling blocks would be that all the processes weren't in place. So we had cars going out that shouldn't have gone out, and it's just having all the checks and balances in place.
You've launched this new brand in New Zealand now, Best Auto Buy.
Yep.
Can you explain the idea behind that and what Best Auto Buy is going to be?
It's just to get better coverage throughout New Zealand. At the moment, we would say we don't have great market share. We're hoping with the secondary brand we can sort of gain more market share.
When you say more market share, are you looking at a different part of the market? I mean, is Best Auto Buy going to target a different set of buyers and a different service level to 2CheapCars?
It's our secondary brand, so the focus on advertising is going to be less, but pretty much same Japanese imports coming from different sources in Japan.
Has the 2Cheap brand, do you think, been a little bit tainted or doesn't necessarily fit some buyers in the market, and this is the acknowledgement of that?
We're still looking at expanding into Whangarei, New Plymouth, opening more branches throughout the country. So I think there's still quite a lot of growth left for 2CheapCars.
Okay. What is there a difference at all between 2CheapCars and Best Auto Buy?
Just in terms of the cars that we source.
What is their difference?
Just from different supply channels.
Right. But that doesn't necessarily indicate an actual difference in the vehicle or the quality of the vehicle. What's the...
So if you look at the New Zealand market, I think Japanese imports, 70% are brought in from 3 suppliers out of Japan. So we're just bringing in cars from a different supply channel.
What are your supply channels now? You've got your own buying unit up in Japan now, but is that your only source of vehicles?
Yep, so we've got our own buying unit and we use various exporters in Japan, but all the cars are handpicked by our buying staff, many of whom are New Zealanders. So we've got Kiwis based in Japan buying our cars.
Other than Japan, you're now entering the Canadian market.
Yes.
What was the catalyst to get you into Canada, and what's the plan there, and how is that rolling out?
So Canada's a left-hand drive market, so we don't see it as being a large market, but we do see a great opportunity to bring Japanese cars into Canada for people that are JDM enthusiasts. Beyond Canada, we're sort of looking at America as well. America has a small but vibrant JDM scene, so we're sort of basing ourselves in Vancouver at the moment, but looking to expand throughout North America.
I imagine that must be a fairly big learning curve from a regulatory perspective, both those markets.
You'd be surprised at how well regulated New Zealand is, and I think Canada probably still has a little bit of catching up to do.
Any other scope to go beyond Canada and the United States, or any other import markets you're considering?
Yeah, we're always looking at new markets, new opportunities, and we will be opening elsewhere as well, I think. Yeah.
Have you got a particular manager running your international programs? Is this what you're keeping an eye on, or David's keeping an eye on?
Pretty much it's been myself and David. We do have a general manager in Canada who takes care of the day-to-day operations.
Why did you look at Canada? I mean, it's not exactly something that many Kiwi used importers have even contemplated, and you guys are going straight into it.
Canada, I think, is similar in terms of culture to New Zealand, so the learning curve there wouldn't be as great as, say, going to somewhere like Russia.
When do you plan to open doors in Canada, and are you sending New Zealand staff up there to run the operation, or are you hiring locals?
We've got a Canadian general manager who's been working for us for the last couple of years. Originally he was based in New Zealand, and we sent him over to Canada to start our operation there. We'll be opening late August, so if you can come, you can.
and that'll be under the 2Cheap brand?
Yes.
What happened with your new vehicle dealership plans? I mean, both from the perspective that you opened up your parallel import yard, and at one stage you indicated you looked like the idea of possibly looking at the franchise market as well.
Yep.
I mean, where are your intentions around that market these days?
We still bring in those near new imports. The market size wasn't as great as we anticipated, which sort of proves that new cars in New Zealand aren't being sold to the public, but more towards corporates and government. So I think going forward, I think that is something that we still want to do, and we always look at those opportunities.
When you say that's something you want to look at again, are you talking more in that near new import environment, or is the option still there for your company to buy a new vehicle franchise at some point in the future?
We've looked at buying a franchise dealership, but the profitability of new car dealerships isn't as great as what we thought. So we sort of, I think, stick to our core business.
You previously, you almost virtually announced plans or indicated that the intention to float 2CheapCars. That seemed to die down, and you did a deal with ASB Bank.
Yep.
Where are those plans going? I mean, is there still the possibility that one day you'll float, or what killed it?
So I think in New Zealand, access to capital for businesses been pretty good these last couple of years. So we've been able to secure funding without having to go to the public. And I think even beyond getting bank funding, I think access to capital through other means is readily available in New Zealand. So if you look at the New Zealand share market over the last couple of years, there hasn't really been that many IPOs happening. And you can sort of see quite a few companies which are in that small to medium level delisting as well. The idea of an IPO is good, but I guess at the moment the necessity of an IPO isn't there.
Would it be fair to say it was more about raising capital than an exit strategy ultimately from the business?
Yeah, and myself, David, we don't have any plans of exiting the business anytime soon.
I guess that kind of flows into the next question. I mean, once large New Zealand-based companies involved in the import industry ultimately attract attention for acquisition from Japanese companies, is that something you've had or you expect to have at some point?
Yeah, like we always get approached by various people, but I guess if you've looked at the track record of Japanese companies operating retail operations in New Zealand, it hasn't been very good. So I think through the failures of these companies, I think Japanese exporters wouldn't really be looking to retailing in the New Zealand market.
Right. Are you worried that other dealers can, and we know that it is out there, have a negative view towards 2CheapCars? I mean, and do you kind of go out of your way a little bit at times to be controversial and push buttons?
The dealers that I know I get on with pretty well, and I think you can look at a lot of car dealers that are having a lot of success now. And just going back to the point that we're trying to be Jetstar, we're not trying to be Air New Zealand. So the opportunity for dealers is there as long as they have a point of difference. So our point of difference is the same cars for cheaper, but with limited service. So I think the dealers that are striving in this market, they have that point of difference where maybe their cars are a little bit more expensive, but we would spend $70 to groom a car before we sell it, whereas a successful high-end dealer would be spending $200. So the type of customer that goes to buy their cars wouldn't necessarily come and buy our cars. So it's just making sure that everyone has a clear strategy.
Have you tried to shake things up a little bit and try and be a little controversial at times, if for nothing else than to get a little bit of attention?
To a certain point, yes.
And is that a strategy, or is that just you personally wanting to push people?
That's just me personally. Yeah.
2020 will see the introduction of mandatory stability control on cars with engine capacities under 2,000 cc's. We've already seen some change in the market this year with that requirement over 2,000 cc. Now that's going to cut across the bulk of the import industry, but particularly that a lot of the vehicles that you plan will no longer be able to be imported. I mean, how tough do you think it's going to be for 2CheapCars and the industry as a whole?
Yeah, I think when we first started 2CheapCars, that was on the back of the new emission standards. So I think went into 3-digit engine codes from 2-digit. At that time, I remember going to the IMVIA meeting, and all the dealers were in an uproar, saying that it was going to destroy the industry. But as you can see, we're stronger than ever. With ESC, I think there will be an effect, but probably for a limited time. New Zealanders always find a way to carry on. So the makes and models that we see on the roads will slightly change. But if you go back in history, there were times when a Nissan Sunny was a top 5 car. And then, post 2020, we're probably going to see a lot more Priuses on the road. At the moment, we can import a car for X amount of dollars, sell it for X amount of dollars, which is popular. If that changed to hybrid cars, in the beginning there'll be consumers that wouldn't want it, But when that pool sort of becomes limited, somebody that needs to buy a new car will start buying the cars that are available. So there'll be a 6 months period where people hold off buying cars because what they wanted isn't available. But there's only so much time that people can hold off. And when you look at the New Zealand average fleet age, for us especially, our customers, it's not I want a car, it's I need a car. So for us, we don't really see our volumes changing in a significant way.
Okay, but perhaps the product mix will shift.
Yeah, but it always does in these cycles, and it's done so in the past. So I think when you look at the current regulation, we can bring in a 2004 Honda Fit, and in reality, I think that car is maybe a little bit too old to be a first-time registered car in New Zealand. So it's something that's necessary, I think.
But they do make great 3999 advertising splashes, I guess is the point.
And then for the first couple of years after the new regulations, the starting price point might change to 5999 or 6999, and then after 2 years, 3 years, we'll just creep back down, and then we'll just go through the same cycle again. And I think our industry sort of works in cycles, and it will just be another cycle from start to end.
We'd like to thank Eugene Williams for sitting down with us for this interview. For more dealer interviews and industry news, visit our website, autotalk.co.nz. You can also check out more videos on YouTube or podcasts on SoundCloud by searching for Auto Media Group or clicking the links below.